Okay, Michael, we continue our journey, the Great Judgment.
We do. It's gotten pretty weighty. We're at that stage, aren't we now, where we're kind of piecing things together and seeing where it leads to.
And we're never quite getting through what we think to be the part and whatnot. And I'm sitting there going, at this stage, I'm just not sure we're going to get away without 5 parts. So our
Just for
apologies.
everyone to know, we planned this to be 3 parts, and we're on part 4. We already know there's a part 5, and unless the father drops something else, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see how we go. We'll keep going with it. But today we got part 4, the Great Judgment, the Star Witness. Hands up for all those who have seen part 1, 2, 3. Have you seen all 3 parts? See, a lot of you have. Nice. Okay. For those who haven't seen all the parts, again, we really highly recommend, and anybody watching on the video, this is one of those series that is meant to be watched sequentially and to watch because we're building up on it in that sort of Hebraic fashion. And so if you're just going to step in at part 4 and not see the other first 3 parts, there just may be some things that you've got questions on that if you'd watched the first 3 may already be answered as a part of the journey and the picture that we're building here, because we've kind of going through the whole understanding of judgments and things like that. Today's part is Star Witness. So we just encourage you, if you have joined us here today live and you've not seen the other 3 parts, to go that back and to watch them. And if you're joining by video, to watch the other 3 before watching this one. So whatever it may be, but we do hope it's a blessing, and we're going to continue on our journey here. So today we got part 4, the Star Witness of the Great Judgment. We got a quote here. Michael, I'll get you to read the quote by Eli Wiesel.
For the dead and the living, we must bear witness.
Very, very, very interesting. I often, just for people to know that I often, when I look at some of the quotes coming out of Rome, I do it for a number of reasons where they might not quite have it. It might just be folly, but every once in a while, there's some quotes that kind of sit you back, Michael, and just go, well, isn't that interesting? And so this is a Nobel laureate and a Holocaust survival, actually. He makes a really insightful statement here, which we think fits in with kind of the journey here. For the dead and the living, we must bear witness. Incredible statement. I don't know, and I can't confirm what was the context for which he said this, but in the context of this series, Michael, that is quite a deep. It's quite deep.
Yeah, I mean, we read that there will be the living and the dead will be raised, and they will be judged. And yeah.
Makes you wonder. I wish I could contact him and say, can you please give me the full context of what was going on in that quote? But I couldn't really track that down. But in either case, it was one of those quotes from Rome that made me go, that's quite interesting. We have gone through as a part of the first 3 parts. And again, if you've seen it, then you know that we're doing this under a sort of an overall, what's called a chiastic structure with the menorah that is that was really gone into the tabernacle right back in the wilderness and through the temple, and then the revelation of it being stated in the 7 kahal and the great lampstand of the book of Revelation, the revelation of Messiah. And we have based the nature of this on the judgments, the key biblical judgments of being right up in the helicopter and sort of looking from these overall great judgments occurring over the span of the plan of redemption. And this goes really right from Adam and Eve in the fall, and we are going to finish with a great white throne judgment before we come out of this time domain. And so we've keying these 7 key judgment structures that are going on. So what are we looking at here, Michael? Just before we venture in here, what is this that's going on?
Well, just as a quick remark, most people are aware of the judgment that was placed upon creation at the beginning of time. The mankind judgment is what we're saying is the Great Flood, where all but 8 were wiped off. Number 3 is, the judgment on the house of Israel and the divorce condition and the scattering. Number 4, the bridegroom. This is, Messiah suffering at the hands of the religious system, and him taking upon, him paying the price for his bride. And then number 5 and number 6, we would associate with the 4 Moedim, the bride selection happening around Yom Teruah, Feast of Trumpets, the nation's judgment, sheep and goats judgment happening on Yom Kippur, and then the culmination of the millennial reign, again, which is a creation judgment, the great white throne, because all creation will be judged, those in heaven, on earth, and under the earth.
Nice. So the whole thing that we see, of course, with Messiah being represented in the middle, the branch that holds it all together, in these judgments. So we've got we have a Elohim, a creator that has taken full responsibility for us, is what we're saying here. And so for his judgment to be righteous, which is the claim of Scripture, that there is a righteous judgment occurring. We have got the most incredible faith that there is, and the only faith on earth that truly has the Creator, has been a part of not having us do anything he wasn't willing to do himself. And so he's taken full responsibility, accountability, and consequence for the creation. And this relates to the great biblical judgments over this whole plan of redemption. And so again, as he is laid out in that sort of that beautiful picture of the menorah at the beginning of the book of Revelation of our Messiah, we again see this chiastic structure when it comes to looking at these great biblical judgments over mankind and what will ultimately bring righteous judgment for all. And so it's important that we look at it and understand it at that level. And so this is what we're trying to do as we go through and continue on in the series. Michael, I'll get you to start off. We finished kind of with Isaiah 45 on part 3, and now we're going to start having a look at something in Isaiah 46, because we were given an allusion to a plurality here and something's going on. And we're going to see, why would there be this plurality, and how does Elohim look at perhaps his own existence in relationship to eternity and righteous judgment?
So again, we finished off with Isaiah 45, and this chapter, Isaiah 46, is a continuation actually of the previous chapter that we covered last week. So think of it as one oratory. So there's no break, there's no chapter break. It's just Yah speaking. And he says, "Listen to me, O house of Jacob, all the remnant of the house of Israel, who have been born by me from before your birth, carried from the womb." And this is just one of these amazing statements. We read right over it, but how can he carry something from before our birth? You get these statements, "I knew you from the foundation of the earth," which he says to Jeremiah. So what's he speaking of here? Like, clearly this plan of redemption was known and spelled out very clearly even before the foundation of the earth. Yah knew exactly what he was doing, and that he was carrying this people, as it were, even before creation. "Even to your old age, I am he, and to grey hairs I will carry you. I have made, and I will bear, and I will carry, and will save."
So somebody appears to have taken accountability for a statement that sits outside the time domain. What's going on? It's most incredible.
He's telling us right here, he knows exactly what needs to be done. He will do it. And again, I love this. "I will bear, I will carry, and I will save." And this was all thought of. And there's this allusion to a person, to a group of people that are going to come. Like, he's speaking of them from before the time domain, and what we're kind of hinting at is that this people will come out of the time domain into this eternal place.
So this is an incredible perspective for why we're zooming out and looking at this plan of redemption and its judgments, because he is at the heart of achieving his purpose. And this is starting this 46 in this place. And it would be remiss of us not to understand that he's saying, hey, this is me that has purposed all of this. Because we're about to read some interesting things here in 46 and start to look at things which make for very interesting swims and accountability and fellowship and iron sharpens iron and the journey, revelation, and all of these sorts of things that go into understanding what potentially our Creator is allowing us to understand as a part of this journey inside the time domain, at least to some level, and a level which is essentially been shut down by religious dogma on both sides, whether it be the Judeo or the Christian side. So we're going to a place now as we get to the end of the age, which we believe the Father is pouring out an understanding of his righteousness, which includes his judgment, as promised by the great prophet Daniel, that would occur right at the end of the age before the coming of Messiah.
I guess that's a nice way of saying some of you may get rattled because of our religious leaven just kind of like screaming at us.
But we're going to contend with this because the blessing of it and to understand it is phenomenal. And we believe that he wanted us to know this at this time, as men's hearts fail them for what's coming upon the earth. We have a Creator that's also putting in us exceptional understanding of things, which we believe is a great blessing to the body at this time. Okay, so Isaiah 46, 5, 6, to whom will you liken me and make me equal and compare me that we may be alike? Those who lavish gold from the purse and weigh out silver in the scales, hire a goldsmith and he makes it into a god. Then they fall down and worship. You get this sense that we've got an Elohim going, you're doing what? And you think that you can make gods this way? What do you think, Michael? Do you think he's kind of about to make a point? Like, you think this is making a god?
Well, absolutely. And this is in the context of verse 5. Elohim saying, to whom would you make me equal? Who will you compare me to? And again, remember what we kind of left off with last week, this idea, there is none like him yet. And I want to bring this idea of, what was the accusation the Pharisees threw at Yeshua? You, a man, make yourself equal to Elohim. Now, we will all admit Messiah is our king. He is our Elohim. And then we read in his revelation that as he overcame and sat on his Father's throne, so will a group of people overcome and sit on his throne. Well, I don't know about you, Curtis, but I see some similarities here, that they may be alike.
Well, it's interesting. The Sanhedrin at the time of Messiah, they're trying to catch him out. And they're saying, you make yourself equal. These are the scriptures they were very well aware of. And so they're trying to throw at the one who said it back in his face. And that's why he would say, you brood of vipers, you spit, you hypocrites. It's like what you've got here is the creation throwing back at the Creator in his face, the very thing, the point he was making, that the wooden stuff, right? And now he's there in front of them in the flesh. So there is an incredible irony going on here when they're doing the Messiah, because they're drawing off their word, the prophets and of course the Torah. But they're actually in this most ironic place, and one that's actually quite serious, because they're about to reject something really serious in all of this. So he's coming as a part of, we believe, the process of not only the great plan of redemption, but including in that great plan of redemption, something he's doing, because we believe in Elohim doesn't plan on spending eternity alone. That wasn't a part of his dream. And so he's there in a fundamental part of something that is very interesting. And there was a ironic type of accusation going on by the Sanhedrin to Yeshua at the time, of course, before they would demand his death. Okay. All right. Isaiah 46, 7, 8. They lift it to their shoulders. So here we go. They carry it. They set it in its place, and it stands there. It cannot move from its place. If one cries to it, does it not answer? It does not answer or save him from his trouble. Remember this and stand firm. Recall it to mind, you transgressors. In other words, if you think this is how gods are made, you're fools. You're transgressing. You don't have a clue what's going on. And you're playing with these idols and you're lifting them to the status of Elohim. And this is something that is seriously about to come down or be unfolded in the verses to come here. But make no mistake about it. You don't get to throw this back in Messiah's face. You don't get to do that. They tried, but they didn't understand what they were actually reading. So this is where we say just keep reading. Just keep reading where he's going, because he's making a point that all of this stuff is not how it's done. You are not Elohim, I am. And the way you do it is not the way it happens.
He's almost making mockery of them. He says, and again, remember this whole... In fact, let's go to this passage because it really spells it out, doesn't it, Curtis?
It does.
Remember the former things of old, for I am Elohim, and there is no other. I am Elohim, and there is none like me. Now, this phrase that we've underlined, there is no other, like you're getting 4 words in the English. In the Hebrew, there's only 2. It literally says ein od. So it means no, but then this word odd, it means a continuance, a cycle, going round. It's got this idea of time, both eternal and within the time domain. But it can also be used in this phrase of yet. So when you put the ein od together, he says, I am Elohim, there is no other, not yet, right?
Not yet.
And what did we read just earlier? To whom would you compare me to? To whom that we will be alike? And he says, go on, Curtis.
I was just going to say on that, just to finish the thought that you're raising here before we read the second part of this, the ud on the odd, it's actually, where the root of this, the root word ud, it's fascinating because it can mean to duplicate. It's like, this is interesting in the Hebrew. Why did it reflect it this way?
And
it could have reflected it other ways.
And he's testifying of this, and he says, I've declared this from before the foundation of the earth. And again, this idea of to encompass. Now, if you understand a Hebrew wedding, you get this thing of the encompassing, this encircling, and the restoring, like the restoring of what or who, should we say?
So you've got this incredible plan of redemption. You've got this whole thing of, the cyclic, the continuance. You've got the not yet, all this capsulated in a little statement that we in the English will just rush through. And it was always one of the saddest words that for me in the fires of my life to read that. And it grieved me because it made me think, and this is what happened to me in the fires of my life. This is going back almost 14 years ago. And it hit me so hard. It was like, my goodness, you're alone. I realized what I was looking at. And it really hit me. And for the first time in my walk at that time, I'd finally shed a tear for my Creator. Because quite frankly, our faith is all about us. And just for a moment to consider why He's done all of this. And what this is really all about. And suddenly my faith became more than just me. And it was interesting. And so this is some of the most exciting words, like we're reflecting today in so many ways, incredible, the nature of all of this. But they're also some of the most saddest to me. It's like this thing. I go through this state of ambivalence going through this because it's on one hand, I'm shedding a tear with Elohim. On the other hand, I'm going, yes, because we're going to read the second part of this, which of course takes us to a different thing. So I'll get you to finish this off because this is where it gets really exciting.
Declaring the end from the beginning. And from ancient times, things not yet done. By the way, this thing from ancient times has this hint to be prior to creation, saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will accomplish my purpose. Now, what I will ask the audience is, not what is the counsel of Elohim, but who is the counsel of Elohim. Considering the context of everything we've just read, he says, to whom will you make me alike? by the way, you're trying to create gods. It isn't cutting it. By the way, my counsel will stand.
And I will accomplish all my purpose. And it means that in the Hebrew. This is his dream, his vision, his fantasy. This is his creation. He is Elohim. And he is going to do it his way. And the reality of that when it hit me, Michael, was like, oh my goodness.
Because what does the enemy do? He takes what Elohim does and he flips it upside down. So when man creates his own gods, you have to say, well, what's the inversion? What's on the other side? What has Hasatan twisted?
All right. So we got an interesting allusion here. It continues on in Isaiah, calling a bird of prey from the east, a man of my counsel from a far country. I have spoken and I will bring it to pass. He's making the point. I have purposed and I will do it. Do what? He's making allusions to there's something big he's doing here, and it has everything to do with, you know how you guys are going about making your silly little gods? Wait till you see how I do it. When this hits you and what you're really reading, and I'll tell you, Michael, I pondered this, and in our own swims and everything else, you're just like, my goodness. He's actually using the folly of man in their attempt to make Elohim and now saying, oh, no. I'm going to show you how you do this. And it's not anything the way you do it. This is far above your ways. You do not understand how this works, nor the price that is paid as a result of it. The price that even an Elohim will pay in order to purpose it, in order to do it. And this is an incredible thing that's going on here.
And you've kind of alluded to, I said that Hasatan will pervert what Elohim is doing. And you said for Elohim to bring a bride, to be someone like him, he had to pay a very big price, right? We have Messiah demonstrating this for us. But when man creates his gods of gold, there's no price paid. I want the goodie bag without the overcoming. And this is the age-old thing that Hasatan does. He was to say, oh, you can have the goodie bag, and you don't even have to do this overcoming. You don't have to put in the legwork. And this is what you're seeing when man creates their own gods.
Now, what if we did this with our religious dogma? You say in Christianity, oh, well, I'm the bride of Christ. Well, what if you made it up? And what price did you pay? I mean, you look at these doctrines that are out there, all of them appeasing the flesh. It's like we deserve somehow, this title of bride, not realizing the price, the cost, the selection, the judgment, all of these things that come if you're going to do something at the level of an Elohim. And so we've reduced what he's doing here and made it all about us and our image of him. In essence, we are making our little gods. We are fashioning them. We are doing our things with making him in our own image, which of course goes directly against the actual covenant itself. And so we are guilty of what the house of Israel has always been guilty about, whether you're making little carved statues, because I know we're all sitting there going, I don't carve gods and bow down to them. Oh, but what have you done in your mind? Because here's where he goes. Listen to me, you stubborn of heart. You mean this is a heart matter? Whoa. You who are far from righteousness.
And these people have the Torah they're learning Torah. Again, context. And he's saying, yes, you have my word, but you're far from righteousness.
And that's actually the big point in all of this too. This is not a Torah illiterate audience. I bring near my righteousness. It is not far off. And my salvation, I will not delay. I will put salvation or redemption in Zion. Look at this. For Israel, my glory. And we got this incredible thing here with glory. In the Hebrew there, Michael, what are we seeing here? Because this is demonstrating, or it's at least figuratively, but it could be literally, something's being adorned here. This has wedding speak attached to it. It is honor attached to it. What's going on?
Well, normally when you see the word glory, you would have the Hebrew word kavod. But when we were going through this, we realized this word, tifara, it means an ornament. Think of a groom adorning his bride, but this idea of being, comely, fair, brave, glorious, this honor, this majesty, and again, he's adorning something in the context of it. To whom would you liken me? To whom would I be alike?
And now the for. Who's this for? The house of Israel. Do you mean he's associating something he's fashioning for the benefit and plays a part of the redemption of Israel? What? Like, do we know what we're reading here? He's doing this. Whatever he's going to adorn, whatever is going to be in the thing that he's fashioning is for his people, Israel. Now we're going to start to remember some things we did earlier in part 1, 2, and 3. Don't you know you are going to judge the 12 tribes of Israel? Don't you? There was something the disciples and Yeshua and what they seemed to have an understanding that was quite interesting, that there was something that was going, and could this play into, like this might be suggesting, righteous judgment? He's going to bring his righteousness with him. Would it go as far as actually the throne? And is there something that's going to play a part, and may indeed, and the question is going to be here, in order for it to be righteous, maybe we're seeing something fashioned that is a part of making this righteous. Is it possible? And we'll keep going on with this. But what Michael and I would like the community to consider, is it possible that what we're seeing here is that whatever he's adorning will actually play a part in making his judgment righteous? And this isn't about a power play. It's not about a power trip. It's not about, oh, well, I'm going to make you this so you can rule and swing sticks over people. And, he's not talking about creating, a politician. Okay. This isn't about making someone rich, as in monetarily. This has actually to do with a righteous judgment.
One of the questions we asked in the last part was, how do you get those being judged to say, righteous are your judgments? And
because they're going to face something.
And this is what we're trying to hint at. Is this a part of Elohim getting people to understand this is righteous judgment?
My sheep hear my voice. I know them. I know them. Wow. When I looked at this, and you just even in the Greek, the gynosko, to perceive, and here we go again, understand, but look at this, intimacy, sexual intercourse, would be to try and describe the level of intimacy being used here. We saw this in the early, and particularly in part 2. Here we go again. I know them and they follow me. In other words, they are intimate. There's an intimacy going on. I give them eternal life and they will never perish. And no one will snatch them out of my hand. Wow. My Father who has given to me is greater than all, and no one is able to snatch them out of the Father's hands. I and the Father are echad. They're one. What's going on here? Like, what are we actually seeing here? Because this is occurring during the feast. They were all celebrating the Feast of Dedication, what we call Hanukkah, in the temple. And he's in the temple while they're celebrating this. And he's at Solomon's porch where the truth is supposed to come forth. And he's making this statement after them sort of asking him, are you the Messiah? So they're going back to Isaiah, which we talked about earlier at the beginning of this, right back at the beginning of 46. And they're throwing this in his face. You tell us, are you the Messiah? They're getting him. They're actually holding him up, and they're doing this at Solomon's porch. There's a real symbol going on here. So what are we seeing, Michael? What does this mean, this intimacy? What's going on here?
Well,
How far does this go?
exactly like it. I mean, obviously, there's the wedding illusions, the father giving the bride to his son, but what he makes the statement: "I and the Father are one, and I know them, and they follow me." And where did Yeshua go? He overcame and sat on the Father's throne again. And this is why he would say in John 17, "Father, I pray that they may be one with us." You know, like again, this, and where is us sat on the throne? This is intimacy. This is the two becoming one flesh, or the spiritual equivalent of that.
So we've got now this come follow me. We have a creator that's going ahead of us. You know, and this great rabbinical, phrase, come follow me, where the Talmudim would follow in the footsteps of their rabbi. Well, Messiah is our rabbi. He is our master. And he's saying, come follow me. And his reality of coming into the fallen time domain, to come as a servant, to live in a place of repentance, to go to his death, then to be resurrected, to play and to sit in the seat of high priest, to intercede on our behalf right now, and then ultimately to head to the judgments that will come with the fulfillment of Yom Kippur. And then, of course, ultimately right out to the end of the last great day. And he's saying to all of this, come follow me. And he's alluding to you fashion your false gods this way, but I'll show you how to fashion a real Elohim. And then there's this allusion to bride and what's going on. And then there's some interesting words that come. They actually come around our creator or our Messiah himself. I'll get you to read this, Michael. This is interesting. This is the words of our Messiah. Now let's read it with the context, though, so far in this journey.
Yeshua answered them, "I have shown you many good works from the Father. For which of them are you going to stone me?" And again, this is in answer to, tell us if you're the Messiah or not. And they've just accused him of saying they're about to pick up stones because he said, their accusation is, you, a man, make yourself equal to Elohim, not, just equal to. And he says, so for what good works do you want to stone me? The Jews answered him, "It is not for a good work that we are going to stone you, but for blasphemy, because you, being a man, make yourself Elohim." They knew what he was saying. This is, I'm not going there.
It's a fair point. They're quite happy fashioning the idols. There was all sorts of stuff being hidden in those cupboards at that time, by the way. There was a lot of mystery Babylon that crept back in to the Sanhedrin and the temple system. And they were hiding all sorts of little trinkets in the secret rooms in the temple. And don't kid yourself, Yeshua knew it. But this is getting back to this whole thing we were showing you in Isaiah. And that basically they're giving an accusation. You make yourself Elohim. Whoa. I'll get you to finish it here, Michael. This is his answer. This is Messiah's answer. It's interesting.
Yeshua answered them, "Is it not written in your law, I said, you are gods?"
Whoa. What? What is happening here? I mean, don't we hear all these silly little sermons and things, oh, you are God's little g and all this kind of stuff. And we got Christianity is just bastardized this teaching. There's no other way I can put it in some circles to no end. I mean, it's like we're willing to grab all the goods, but we're not willing to understand how any of this comes about, why it's come about, how it will come about, when it will come about. Nope, let's just, sit in a seat that we're not ready to be in. So Yeshua's answered there, but here's what's interesting. The word he uses here, and he could have used other things, but the word he uses here to them is theos. Why would he use that? Because it is actually that which is likened unto God. So in the Greek, this is literally saying theos. Why would that be the case, Michael? Because this is using a form that can be used singular or plural that literally means Elohim, the Greek equivalent, theos. Why do this?
What's the accusation they're throwing at Messiah? You, a man, make yourself Elohim. And he's saying, whoa, 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 whoa. doesn't. Well, in fact, he's quoting Psalm 82. He says, "Why are you moaning at me for saying this when the word says you are gods?" What's he
So
trying to say?
yeah, he's not disputing um, almost he's certainly not disputing the accusation, but he's answering in a way that's going, once again, do you guys know what's written in your Torah? Can you see it? Do you understand it? And he's likening this, and the Greek word being used there is theos. Wow. How did this happen? What is going on? And this is from the words of our Messiah. Then we get to Psalm 82, 6, 8. Now, this is interesting because I believe we got real allusions here to Yom Teruah, Feast of Trumpets, Thousand Year Reigns, and obviously to the great white throne in eternity. But look at this. Arise, O God. What? I said you are gods, Elohim, sons of the Most High. Elyon, or Yon. All of you, nevertheless, like men, Adam, you shall die and fall like any prince. Arise, O God, Elohim, plural, judge the earth, for you shall inherit all the nations. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Arise, Elohim. Hold on. Don't we have an event called Yom Teruah where there's a bride selection going on? Like, what are the steps here? Michael, what are we reading here? What's going on?
Okay, this is where I said people's theology may start getting jarred a bit, but let's look at it in context. Verse 6, you are Elohim plural, sons of the Most High. Now, so these Elohim are sons of the Most High. There's a differentiation going on here. Now, Elyon is only used of Yah in Scripture. So whoever these Elohim are come forth from the Most High. And then he makes this statement, but you're going to die. At some point you will die, i.e., and fall like any of the princes. And then he says, arise, O Elohim. Now, who's this being addressed to? You have to look at it in the context. These are the sons of the Most High. And these sons of the Most High will judge the earth, for you shall inherit the nations. Again, what are the promises given to the overcomer in the book of Revelation?
And we don't get to make this up. It either supports, or we're either seeing the Psalm supporting the revelation of Messiah here in the great plan of redemption, or we're in imagination on our revelation. So the key thing here is are we actually on the foundation of the plan of redemption? Because our imaginations leading to so-called revelations matters not here. But what is interesting is if we're to be honest with what the word is actually saying in the Hebrew, and the distinction that it is certainly given between Elohim or Elyon, the Most High, producing Elohim, then what Yeshua said and how he answered the Sanhedrin not only makes sense, but it is literally telling them what's going on here. He is fashioning Elohim. He's doing it. How does he do it? You shall die. Whoa. And then we see this whole marriage picture, the reuniting, the bridegroom and the groom, and she can't remarry unless the bridegroom actually dies. And no one asked the question, but what if the bridegroom rose again? This is the thing that sends everything back to this chiastic structure of us understanding who centers this. What if Elohim, Elyon, does this? And he's fashioning Elohim. What are we actually seeing here? Because we didn't write Psalm 82, 6a. We didn't write the response Yeshua gave. We didn't write what we're reading and seeing in any of the Brit Hadashah, the Tanakh, and indeed the Torah.
And so, why would Elohim say through the prophet Isaiah, to whom do you make me alike? I mean, when you start seeing it, it starts popping up everywhere. And I just want to make the point, because we read, like men you shall die. We see this as you will die, he's throwing the thunderbolt. And what if he's just making the statement, by the way, part of this process, you're going to have to die. You know why? Come follow me. because
Come
he
follow
had
me.
to.
Are we in the footsteps of the rabbi? And what would those footsteps include? They include dying. Wow. You mean this was a part of his process? Because the context of you shall die is in the context of you are Elohim, sons of the Most High. It makes perfect sense if we understand at least what they did in ancient times regarding Yeshua's answer. And yet the Sanhedrin, the most religious people in the system, almost 2,000 years ago, did not.
And I want to make one more point. A lot of people will make that psalm about the angels, the angelic host. Well, here's the problem with that. It clearly says that these Elohim will judge the earth and inherit the earth. When I read the book of Revelation and Paul's words, it says that it's the bride judging the angels, not the other way around. So this is one of the reasons, this is not speaking of, the angelic host, because they're the ones that will be judged. There will be Elohim judging them.
There's a righteous judgment that's going to go over all of creation. How is that righteous judgment going to occur when it includes all? In fact, the word there, I believe in the Greek is cosmos.
Yeah.
It is the judgment. It includes everything. So what is happening here? Because man has to be raised by Elohim. We don't play with the dead. We are raised from it. And we will eventually, if there's a place of righteous judgment, something's going to be included in judging it. Well, if you're judging the dead, you better have been raised. You better be a part of the great plan of redemption. And so this now starts to make something really serious. And it's like, whoa. Do we really want to run to this place before our time? Do we really think we're in the position of the worthy bride right now, that we could sit in such seats? What is going on here? This validation, I believe, Mike, what we're seeing is this validation of the Bema. There was a selection that occurred at this event that is being risen. They've been raised and they're going to be raised, and some will be selected as a part of pulling a bride and something from the house of Israel, something that was raised from the dead on the great fulfillment of Yom Teruah. There's going to be something selected. And this something, if it's to be a part of his righteous judgment, is going to require a witness, perhaps a star witness, something far bigger than we could think of. I'll give you something. You read this, Michael.
Nevertheless, I tell you the truth. It is to your advantage that I go away. So this is Yeshua speaking to his disciples. This is some of his last words to his disciples before he was going to the Tav. It is advantage to you that I go away, for if I do not go away, the Helper will not come to you. But if I go, I will send him to you. And when he comes, he will convict the world concerning sin and righteousness and judgment. Concerning sin, because they do not believe in me. Concerning righteousness, because I go to the Father, and you will see me no longer. Concerning judgment, because the ruler of this world is judged.
Wow. And the Ruach is given to us in female pronoun terms. Wait a minute. Is come follow me. So we've got him ascending. We've got him taking the throne. We've got him as a high priest interceding. We've got him sending his Ruach. Yet there's something that's coming into this millennial reign where we're going to be doing the things that he's doing. Come follow me. So we're being raised up to follow him. This is interesting. Is there going to be elements of righteous judgment here concerning missing the mark in the millennial reign? Is there going to be a component that something given in a female context is going to play a part of concerning the throne? And could this actually happen in the millennial reign? Does the scripture suggest such a thing? That there's going to be something that's going to go forth and provide what? Confirmation of people missing the mark, instruction in righteousness, and this leading to diakrino? Is there anything that could suggest such a thing?
I mean, people, think of all the prophecies. The Torah shall go forth from Zion. Now, what does Torah do? It spells out sin. And we read in Isaiah that his government will be everlasting. On his shoulders will be the government. Well, what are they governing? According to what standard?
This is why when you really see what is written throughout scripture for people, why I guess a lot of times so much in the religious dogma, they don't know what to do with the millennial reign because they don't understand why the millennial reign. And if you don't understand the why, you're going to allegorize this. You really will. Well, we're already in it, or we're floating around up in heaven. Well, he sits upon the airs of his ways, and all of these doctrines that come around, whether it be post-millennial, whether it be all millennial, whatever is going on, even some of the cultic teachings around this. I mean, heck, you look at what Mormonism's done with things. They've just gone into la land, and when you anchor in Scripture, it's incredible enough just to get the glimpse that we can see on this. We don't need to run away from this. In Revelation 19:6-7, it says, "Then I heard what seemed to be a voice of a great multitude, like the roar of many waters, like the sound of mighty peals of thunder, carrying out, hallelujah, for the Master, our Elohim, the Almighty, reigns." Our Elohim, there's a plurality here. The Almighty reigns. Let us rejoice and exult, give him the glory, for the marriage of the Lamb has come. Look at this. And his bride has made herself ready. This is the revelation of Messiah. Something has made herself ready. And for what purpose? What purpose? To float around in heaven, to allegorize this, to give no context to the great 7-day or 7,000-year plan of redemption in the time domain. Or do we just play with this now and throw it out? Or does it literally mean what it says and says what it means? And is it perhaps our understanding of it has been muddied through religious dogma, mystery Babylon, a seductress that we've been warned about?
And here's the thing, because so far everything we've gone through speaks of a bride being intimate with her king. And this is exactly what Mystery Babylon is trying to rob us from, this intimacy.
If we don't get that intimacy may be required, then we take on statements like, yeah, we're going to judge the angels. We're going to judge the tribes. We're going to sit there on a throne. I'm the bride of Messiah. We become Bridezilla. but what if this required a price, a cost? What if this was serious?
Both parties as well.
Both parties. What if this love was two-way? What if this is something that is going on because the fate of his creation, in the sense of a righteous judgment, needs to occur? And what is the price of righteous judgment on a creation? And I'm going to put this up, potentially on a creation that rejects you. You really want this seat? Do we play with this flippantly? It's going to get sobering. We're just starting to touch on something now. This is going to get real, excitingly real, yet sobering. On that day, living water shall flow out of Jerusalem. It's out of Zechariah 14:8-9 here. It says, half of them to the eastern sea, half of them to the western sea. It shall continue in summer as in winter. In other words, it's going out. Living waters are going forth from Jerusalem. There's something really special going on here. And it says, and Yah will be king over all the earth. On that day, Yah will be one and his name one. What are we looking at here? Shem in the Hebrew, Michael. What is this implying?
So someone's name, most people will know this, it was their honor, their authority, their character, but we want to focus really on the authority here. His authority will be one. And it says on that day, Yah will be one. Certain English translations really kind of scupper this verse. They'll say things, there will be one Yah. It's like, well, there's always been one Yah. So what do you mean there will be? But when you look at the Hebrew, it literally says Yah will be Echad and his authority will be Echad. Well, you have to ask yourself, Echad with what? Because this is not the numerical one. The numerical one in Hebrew is Yachid. So it's making the point that this is the same word, that man and wife shall become one.
One.
So who is Yah becoming one with? And how
do we just make it up? Or is this whole bride thing literal, Michael?
And it seems to link to his name, his authority. Now, again, when the woman got married to the man, what happened? She took on his name, his honor, his authority. By extension of being, she was an extension of her husband.
You know, it got to such a point. I know in my journey, and I didn't really start seeing any of this till the fires. But as you started to test and to go through to see whether these things be so, these things became incredible to me. It's actually literally saying something. Is it possible that Elohim is fashioning another Elohim, and actually, it is meant to actually sit with them, and it will fulfill a final righteous judgment. And the part of that righteous judgment will be fashioned from that which is being judged. This whole scenario becomes an incredible thing to continue to march through. And the real issue is this what we're reading in the word? And if so, then we can't just cherry pick little bits here and there. We need to look at from Torah to the prophets to the Revelation. What did they know almost 2,000 years ago? Because they spoke incredible language and our Messiah spoke incredible language to them, yet they seem to understand it very easily. And I wonder what we think is revelation almost 2,000 years later was actually their common understanding. We think we're getting lots of revelation here, but is it possible we have lost much of what was delivered? And although there is some coming right at the end, and he's bringing forth an understanding of this righteousness once again, let us not think of ourselves as something more than we are. What did they understood that changed the course of human history almost 2,000 years ago to where their own lives did not matter? They understood something. Paul wrote a whole book called the Book of Ephesians, because suddenly he realized he was in an ancient Hebrew marriage covenant. A Pharisee, tribe of Benjamin, had to go through a Damascus Road experience, knowledge beyond belief, could quote you the book of Devarim, Deuteronomy. And he's suddenly waking up going, oh my goodness, what are we in? What's he actually doing? How religion has dumbed us down. And I mean dumbed us down. Mystery Babylon has done her job. Oh, a great seductress has weaved her way into our eschatology, into our theologies, into all our little labels, into all of the things that we think we're so clever about. Because it's all about us as opposed to what he's doing. Do you know we're talking about the positioning of the bride of Messiah on the throne? And if we don't look at it through the lens that it's about him, for him, from him, we're going to make this all about us. And we're going to end up with these really weird, wonky bride of Christ doctrines, which I grew up with. And they're fully. What are we reading here, Michael?
So Revelation 5, 12 and 13, saying with a loud voice, worthy is the Lamb who was slain to receive power and wealth and wisdom and might and honor and glory and blessing. And I heard every creature in the heaven and on the earth and under the earth and in the sea and all that is in them saying, to him who sits on the throne and to the Lamb be blessing and honor and glory and might forever and ever. And again, this in the Greek, the word him is not there. You've got this preposition, which is more often than not a plurality. These, those, to those who sat on the throne and to the Lamb. This is one of them verses, Curtis. I don't know about you, but I always used to think, why make the to him who sits on the throne and the Lamb? And when you realize the Lamb is sat on the throne, you kind of like, it almost seems like a redundant statement.
Yeah. Like, why are you saying something that doesn't need to be said? Unless, of course, you're familiar with the overcoming to the Kahal of Laodicea, where there's quite a statement made, isn't there? To there who overcomes, I will grant thee to sit with me
on my throne.
Okay. So now that we know that, you're right. You read this and you go, well, wait a minute. This starts to make a little bit more sense. You mean there's somebody with the Lamb? There's a plurality with the Lamb?
Someone that's prepared herself, paid a price. And notice here it says, worthy is the Lamb who was slain to receive power, wealth, wisdom, might, honor, and glory and blessing. Go read some of the prophets to some of the promises. and to the promises of the overcomer. You will rule with me. You will rule with a rod of iron. That the wealth of the nations shall come to Jerusalem. The bride will have the wisdom from above. And I'm starting to see this and going, hang on a minute. Yes, Elohim is worthy of the power, wealth, and wisdom, but if his bride is going to be like him, and these are some of the promises to the overcomer, and then it just flat out says to those sat on the throne and to the Lamb.
You know, if we just stay with the word, understand what it was saying in context almost 2,000 years ago, and indeed longer than that with some of the prophets and of course the Torah. If we don't change it, if we just seek, if we take and remove all our religious dogma, theologies, doctrines, just get it all out and just start to look at what he's saying, what it is saying, what the word is coming through, what was their context. And we can just remove our little theologies. It actually aligns. It actually all adds up. It makes complete sense. And what I read in Isaiah in 46 makes complete sense to what I read in Revelation, be it in Revelation 3, be it in Revelation 5, be it, right at the end and a bride making herself ready. It doesn't disconnect. But I spent a vast portion of my Christian life with all these other doctrines and could never see it. Yet I don't know about you, Michael, but do you ever get the sense that it's been staring us in the face this whole time? And we could only see partly?
Yeah. And we go, when was that put in there, right? And it's always been there, but again, it's our leaven clouding, literally, clouding our ears. Our ears have become thickened, as the prophet Isaiah says.
Micah 4:3, an assured scepter somebody's wielding during the millennial reign. He says, he shall judge between many peoples and shall decide disputes for strong nations far away. You mean there's going to be something that he sends out from Jerusalem that's going to bring forth the Torah, something that's going to be an assured scepter, something that's going to do it? Oh, you better believe it. And who's it all going to come back to during the millennial reign? Who's king? Who's sitting on the throne? Who's here literally on earth? He is. And there's a governance going on. And she most assuredly is in Diakrino. She is most assuredly interceding now. We're going to see something here because we think that Moshe gave us an interesting shadow picture of something we're going to see again in the millennial reign. And we think some of the earliest, after Adam, Moshe shows us some incredible examples potentially of the bride of Messiah, Michael. Is that true? Is that possible that Moshe could be giving us a shadow picture of the bride?
Well, Yeshua does say that Moshe spoke of him.
Wow. And they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up their sword against nation, neither shall they learn war no more. Wonderful. Okay, so we know that the bride and the groom don't go to war after they are married. So this starts to make sense from that sense. So what is this? We're seeing here this judge. We're seeing something interesting. So the judgment that's occurring is from the king, and he can actually bring what into play? Actual sentencing. So we're seeing this Hebrew, this shafat, the safat. What's going on here? You mean that there could be two roles distinctly going on during the millennial reign? That there's actually a diakrino and a krino? There's actually almost like a ruach type role occurring from this governance that's going out. There's actually maybe even an interceding role that's happening that he's doing right now. Because right now we've got somebody interceding for us according to the word.
And again, going back to part 1 and 2, you don't get to Shaphat or to Krino without a process leading up to that point. So when it says he shall judge, he shall pass sentence, there's been a process that's led up to that. Who's partaking of that? Who's interceding?
And no one will take this honor for himself. Wow. We don't get to stick ourselves here. Why? Because I think Yom Teruah is going to have a selection. It's going to have a bride selection. There's something that is chosen, and it is not us that puts ourselves in a bridal position and says, I am the bride. It is us to prepare a garment for which he deems is worthy, not us. And it's making something very clear here, an honor, but not for himself, but only when called by Elohim, just as Aaron was. Now we got this link into this Levitical priesthood. So there's going to be a role of the priest. So also Messiah did not exalt himself, but to be made high priest, but was appointed by him, who said to him, you are my son today, I have begotten you. And he also says in another place, look at this, you are a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. So this is a high priest position that is coming through Melchizedek, this both king and priest position. Well, what Melchizedek means in the Hebrew, if you go in and look, it's the speech pouring forth from the king. In other words, the voice, a righteous king. What Melchizedek means is the voice of the righteous king. Well, hold on. If something is coming forth, this law that is coming forth from Jerusalem, from a king sitting on a throne, and it's coming forth, his speech is pouring forth. Is there going to be a voice of the righteous king? Is there even a need for the order of Melchizedek? And is it possible the assured scepter? And again, this comes back to all the teachings and what we'd reflected to you earlier. It literally is saying his righteous judgment is going to pour forth in the millennial reign, but it's going to end with a great white throne judgment. And something is going to be with him when the final judgment on earth occurs. And we're going to be speaking about this in part 5 and get to a very important question that was asked last week. So this role of interceding, this role of priestly function, is it possible when he says, come follow me, he's right now interceding on our behalf? Is it possible that we could find ourselves in that same role? So we look at Leviticus 16:21. And Aaron shall lay both his hands on the head and live and on the live goat and confess over all the iniquities of the people of Israel and all their transgressions and all their sin, missing the mark. And he shall put on the head of the goat and send it away. This is the Azel goat into the wilderness by the hand of the man who, by the hand of a man who is in readiness. Now we've got this shadow picture occurring of a high priest that's being fulfilled once a year, and we see this being celebrated on Yom Kippurim, on Yom Kippur, the day of Yom Kippur, where they come in, and you're actually seeing this high priestly function for the people of Israel. Well, in Hebrews 4:14-16. It says this, they seem to recognize that Messiah has gone and assumed this position. Since then, we have a great high priest who has passed through the heavens. Whoa. Ascended through the heavens. You mean we have a high priest and a king now sitting on the throne? Not just a king, not just a high priest. Yeshua, the son of Elohim, let us hold fast our confession. For we do not have a high priest who, look at this, is unable to sympathize with our weakness. How did that happen? Did somebody actually walk in our shoes? Did somebody take full responsibility, accountability, and consequence for the creation and now has inserted himself in order to be in a position? And look at it. They seem to know this intuitively, Michael, just the way this is so easily written to them. But one who is in every respect has been tempted as we are. He didn't cheat. Yet without sin. He didn't cheat, but he did better than you, thank goodness. Let us then with confidence draw near to the throne of favor that we may receive what? Mercy and find favor to help in a time of need. Do you mean that one of the requirements of the priestly role is to be able to walk in the place that others have? Is it possible that they're thinking this way? Responsibility, accountability, consequence? And the author of Hebrews is saying this?
And this is what makes him a righteous, sympathetic high priest. Now, again, the question we've been asking, what does it take for righteous judgment? You know, let's put a really simple thing. Who would you want to be judged by? Someone that doesn't know your struggle or someone that's walked it? Lived it? And what will have bride gone through?
And is it possible that righteous judgment would include that which not only went through it sinless, but that went through it with sin? If you were going to make something completely righteous, and you're going to have to view this now in its full context, you need the sacrifice for the blood that will cover missing the mark. But for the righteousness to be complete, you also need to know that we're in those shoes. You would still have an accusation against Yeshua from a righteous judgment point of view, unless there was something sitting beside you that could literally go, what do you say And now they're looking at the claim because there's going to be an attack on something that's coming in the millennial reign, which we do not consider as a part of end times eschatology, which I believe is fundamental and a big part of this thing we call the millennial reign or the last great day, which we do not consider in our normal religious dogma. And we're going to talk about that in a second, but we're going to look at this bridal governance. Isaiah 2:4, the aha, following in part behind afterwards, it's alluding to something. And this is where it says, it shall come to pass in the latter, the word there is yom in Hebrew, day or days. It could be plural or singular. I believe this is referring to the last great day, that the mountain of the house of Yah shall be established as the highest of the mountains shall be lifted up and above the hills, and all the nations shall flow to it. And the people shall come and say, let us go up to the mountain of Yah, to the house of Elohim, of Yahweh, and that they may teach us his ways, and that we may walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth what? The Torah, the assured scepter, the priestly functions. Look at this. And the word of Yah from Jerusalem. Is it saying that there's a bridal governance that actually has walked in a place in order to be able to fulfill this very function? Is it possible that it can be alluding to this? And is it possible that while she's doing this, that you have a king on a throne that is sitting there going, not only will you hear my voice, but you will also respond to it and you will honor it. And in particular, if you don't honor this one in my appointed times, you're going to experience punishment. You're going to experience krino that's going to come from that throne. And so, but there's something that's operating in your behalf in intercession. This is interesting. The one thing that he appears to be pretty fiercely staunch on regards his wedding anniversary. You can dishonor me, but if you dishonor her, whoa. There appears to be something coming in, and I put the point in here. We're about to sow the seed on something as we go into part 5. Note, is it possible that we see a deception or a disobedience starting to form now in the millennial reign, that there would even be a need to withdraw reign? What is going on amongst the people that they would no longer be honoring the Feast of Tabernacles during the millennial reign? Is there an illusion here that something you mean is actually starting to fall into deception or at least disobedience at this point? What? And this is occurring with Yeshua present on earth and a bridal governance? How is this possible, Michael?
In this, some of the statements we've been saying is that we've said in prior teachings. Right now, the deception is against, the attack is against Messiah. In the millennial reign, you're not going to be trying to convince people that Yeshua doesn't exist, blah, 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 or that he's not on the throne. He will be there. But who can you attack?
If we're right now where we've had a deception, we're looking for a coming false Messiah at the end of this age. I'm going to suggest to you, and we'll look at this in greater part 5, to digest this, because there was a great question asked last week, and we're going to finish with that question this week. But we want you to think about something. If we're come follow me, and the attack right now is on a deception of Messiah, is it possible, and we're going to look at this in detail, is it possible that what is coming as a part of this process, in order for this bema seat, this bride selection, for people to accept a righteous judgment that will occur at the end of all of this, is it possible that not only will she be tested herself, but is it possible that what will be released once again to deceive the nations, now this time, is coming after the bride? And she must be in a place that cannot be cheated, just like Messiah, that cannot be a flippant, that there is something that she's going to stand, endure, that there's something that's going to come that is going to try and convince and deceive the nations once again. And apparently this deception is of the sands of the sea. It's so great. Now she's the tack, the star witness, the one that is going to be in a place that will be questioned. And in fact, in real simple terms, almost like an adoption of a stepmom into a house, and the kids are going, "You're not my mom." Is it possible that something so big is about to happen, that we are seeing the round now on Messiah and we come follow him, there's going to be one last round. And guess who's the target this time?
And here's the thing, both of these, the attack on Messiah and the attack on the bride, they both attack the authority of Elohim. But here's the thing I want to ask people, who was the attack against at the beginning of time? It was against the woman. This is what the enemy does. He always goes for the woman. Attack the woman. Attack the woman. Are we going to see a repeat of that? And remember that on the chiastic menorah structure of the judgments, the first judgment was the judgment of creation at the fall of man. Its mirror counterpart is the great white throne judgment. Now, who was attacked at the first one? And are we going to see a mirroring of this?
One involving the first death in the physical, and now one where the second death is at stake. And righteousness is on the stand. And how will our Elohim achieve this? There was a question asked last week. We won't be getting into it till next week. I'm sorry for the brother that asked this, but it will come. He just asked a very good question, a little bit too early in how we're looking at something. But there is a question that many have. What happens to those who die and did not or have a chance to accept Messiah? And I want people to think about this position, this righteous intercession that is going to go on as we lead up to that place. This example of Moshe, which I thought was incredible here. And we'll finish here with Exodus 32, 31, 33. So Moshe returned to Yah and said, alas, this people has sinned a great sin. They have made themselves gods of gold. Ooh, here we get this fashioning again. Why is our Elohim always putting up with us making gods? Why can't we just let him make gods? We always have to make them. Anyway, but now, if you will forgive their sin, but if not, please blot me out of your book that you have written. But Yah said to Moses, whoever has sinned against me, I will blot out of my book. Whoa. Moses is actually acting in an intercessory position here right now. And these people are still in a place of ignorance. What do we actually see going on here with Moshe? Michael, are we actually seeing something? Are we seeing an allusion to the role of the bride of Messiah?
This is one of these passages. Look, Moshe is not trying to pull Elohim's bluff, okay? If I make, Elohim loves me so much, he won't block me out. You have to forgive them. If not, right? This is not what Moshe is doing. And was Moshe the most perfect man either? Yes, he was humble, but he had his issues. And I know in our swim catches, we were saying, was Moses looking at himself going, had I been walking in their shoes, would I be in the same place?
Mm. This was a man who had to come out of Egypt, second in command, spent 40 years getting the leaven out of his house. Is this not a man that understands the shoes of the people that have just been delivered? Notice the language he used, because the books are going to be opened at the end of all of this. And there is going to be judgment, and there is a second death, and it is real. But it's also promised that it is righteous. His words here, amazingly, please blot me out of your book then, that you have written. Whoa, whoa, whoa. What book is this? Because we're told about a book of life. We're told about something that you're blotted out of. We're also told of Messiah who died for the sins of the world. What are we actually dealing with here? How big is this? And has religious dogma brought us to a kindergarten-like bastardized view of understanding how he views righteousness as a part of his plan of redemption? And what would it take for it to be fully righteous in all times? Why do we even see Moses acting in a Melchizedek position? Aaron was going to go on from the Levitical position, but Moses appears to be acting in a Melchizedek position here, a bride position. So let's just think about those things as we go forth. And we're going to be heading on to part 5 next week to the throne and beyond. And we'll finish there for the Q&A. So go away and grab yourself a coffee or whatever, a hot chocolate, whatever you do, and have a washroom break. And we'll see everybody back here in a few minutes.